Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and being a producer of Wrestle Massacre as well as Inside Movies Galore, I am David Strege, and welcome to Delusions of Grandeur. Enjoy the reviews. I certainly did.
Okay, Dave, that's it. Screw you and your college flunkies. I've had enough of this from you and from everyone else. I know what you guys are trying to do. Break me down, drive me out of the force. Well, it's going to take a hell of a lot more than a lame prank like this to get Curtis Mooney to throw in his badge, so fuck you. Over.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of What's in My Room. This is Delusions of Grandeur, and my name is David Strege, and I have some more films to show you from my collection, this time with films that begin with the letter U. So, the first one I have here is a Christploitation film called Ultra Christ. I ended up getting this from a very good friend of mine. His name is Tito, and it's directed by Carey Douglas Dye, and it says on here, utterly plew, never before seen production photos, oh so heavenly guide to the art of erotic message, totally wholly behind the scenes featurette, almost entirely non-blasphemous trailer. Get ready for the whole new Christ. Next I have Ultraviolet. The Blood War is on. And this film is written and directed by Kurt Wimmer. And it stars Milla Jovovich from the Resident Evil series. Next I have a Joe Sherlock film with Tom Schafer, Tamara Redmond, Robert J. Olin, and Heather Storm in Underbelly, which I believe it's an anthology. In this twist-filled erotic thriller, a nebbish college student is hired by a professor to drive a spare car to his niece downstate. When he arrives, the niece is nowhere to be found. In his quest to find her, he becomes entangled with the small town's criminal underbelly, including vile gangsters, sexy hookers, and thuggish hitmen. Little does he know, he is just part of a larger puzzle, while he lives long enough to find out what... Will he live long enough to find out what's really going on? So yeah, this is directed by Joe Sherlock, and I ended up picking this up. Along with many others. Next, I have one of the last couple that I had actually picked up from the Legless Corpse films. As you can see, that's the logo for Legless Corpse. This is got Jim O'Rear but this is it's got Jim O'Rear and Brian Wilson behind it. It's called Underground Movement, or Underground Entertainment, the movie, based on actual events. Next, I have from Gonzorific Films, Andrew Shearer directs this anthology of short films called Underground Cinema. You get to be the guinea pig for the Athens, Georgia underground filmmaking group, Gonzorific, in this multi-movie taste filled with boobs, blood, zombies, superheroes, vampires, and a gorilla in a bikini. And it features Powerless, Bikini Gorilla, May of the Dead, The Gash, Barbara, and more. Next, I have a film called Under the Bed, and this film is directed by Stephen C. Miller. It's put out by XL Raider Media. So, it's under the Macabre collection. From the producers of VHS and VHS 2, Under the Bed. Next I have, this is the 2-disc unrated extended edition of Underworld, and I've kept it even though I know I've got the double feature of Underworld because this was a very heavy 2-disc copy for some reason. Yeah, it got Kate Beckinsale and Scott Speedman in it, and it's one of my favorite vampire movies, actually. To be honest. Next, I have the movie Unfaithful, which that's got Richard Gere and Diane Lane. And the film is directed by Adrian Lyne. I believe that's another one that I had actually picked up from my friend that, Lomira Video, that owned Lomira Video. Once again, that used to be on 522 Milwaukee Street in Wisconsin. Unfaithful. Next, I have Undisputed 3 Redemption. And evidently this was a rental at one point in time, and Lomira Video owned it at the time. So, the film is directed by Isaac Florentine. And it stars Scott Rokins, Michael Shannon Jenkins. Next, I have the movie Unhinged. This is the original uncensored version. And this film is directed by Don Gronquist with Anna Vigio Productions, and for some reason this is put out. This is a lone film put out by Brentwood Home Video. Normally, I'm so used to seeing them have 4 films in one set, kind of like Mill Creek. Next, I have a film from Germany. And it's in subtitles, and it's a 2-disc edition of the film Unholy Ground. It's from Brandel Pictures, and it's directed by Gunther Brendel. Next, I have a movie called Unidentified, and it's directed by Jason R. Miller. Looks like an alien movie. Next I have United 93. And this was a Universal release directed by Paul Greengrass. And that is based on the projected what happened on 9/11. Next I have Liam Neeson in Unknown, directed by John Colette Serra. That's from Warner Brothers Pictures, and evidently this was a Dark Castle film. Dark Castle Entertainment. Interesting. Next I have a Troma film called Unspeakable, directed by Chad Farron, and this is the director's cut of the film. Next I have Until Death. This was put up on Maya Entertainment. And the film is directed by Lamberto Bava. Next I have Russ Meyer's Up, not the Pixar Up. From the Bosselmania collection, starring Janet Wood, Raven Delacroix, and Monty Bain. If you don't see up, you'll feel down. Next, I have a double feature from the Roger Corman cult classics, and this one has Up from the Depths and Demon of Paradise. And the first film, Up from the Depths, is directed by Charles Griffin. And the second film is directed by Sergio Santiago. Next, I have a film that stars Jim Sturgis and Kirsten Dunst in a film called Upside Down. And it is directed, it looks, I'm trying to figure that out. Two Worlds, One Future. Okay, so it looks like the director of this is Juan Salamaz. So yeah, Upside Down. Next, I have a film that was distributed by Tomcat Films called Urban Cannibal Massacre. And this film is directed by Maurice Thomas. Looks like it has a couple of laurels here, and it's 97 minutes. Eat Thy Neighbor, it says on the front. Next, I have a film that was produced by David Sterling, and it is called Urban Combat, and it's directed by Greg Cannon. But I know it was produced by David Sterling. Next, I have a film that was banned in 3 countries. And it was put out by Sub Rosa Cinema, and it's called Urban Flesh. I'm not sure who the director of this is, but I'll definitely be checking this out when I get a chance. Urban Flesh. Next I have Urban Legend. And this film is directed by Jamie Blanks, put out by TriStar and Columbia Entertainment, with Phoenix Pictures. Then, of course, I have its sequel called Urban Legends Bloody Mary. And this one is directed by Mary Lambert, put out by Sony Pictures Home Entertainment and MPP Production. Some Legends Can't Be Buried, from the director of Pet Sematary. So that's kind of interesting that Mary Lambert was the director of Pet Sematary, Stephen King's Pet Sematary. And next I have Urban Legends Final Cut, Legends Never Die. And this was put out by Columbia Pictures. It was directed by John Ottman, and again with Columbia Pictures and TriStar. So next I have Tommy Lee Jones, Wesley Snipes, and Robert Downey Jr. in U.S. Marshals. And it's directed by Stuart Baird. I actually really liked that film. Next I have a film that's called Uzumaki. But in Japanese, it means spiral. And according to this, it says one of the most original horror films in history. There's something evil going around and around and around. And this was put out by Elite Entertainment, but the director is called H.I. Hijichinsky. And from what I understand, he put out a movie called Long Pipe Dreams, or Long Dreams, and that's what he's more known for. So next I have, let me move this stack over. I'm going to move it over so that I can put this stack here. So next I have U-571. I love the action in this film, but from what I understand, looks like Jonathan Mustow is the director. And this was a Universal film, but from what I understand, it was not historically accurate. But that doesn't mean that it's any less a really good movie. If it had happened that way, I wouldn't have been surprised. Next, I have a film that from the Criterion Collection, directed by Kenji Mizoguchi, called Ugetsu, and it's apparently a ghost story. I'm glad that I ended up picking it up eventually. Next, I have a film called UKM, The Ultimate Killing Machine. And this was put out by Alliance Atlantis with Archetype Films and 235 Productions, and it's directed by David Mitchell. And it stars Michael Madsen in it. Next I have Unbreakable. This is part of the Vista series, which put out these really nice DVDs of these films of M. Night Shyamalan. I really liked Unbreakable. And that starred Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson as Glass and the superhero that couldn't die. Next, I have a movie called Unhinged. Another Unhinged title. Put out by ITN Distribution and E1. And it's directed by Dan Allen. They all wanted a piece of her. Some took too much. Next I have a movie with Paul Naschy, Danielle Winnitz, Evandro Mesquita, and Karina Bucci in a film called Umlobisomen na Amazonia by Ivan Cardoso. That is my copy from Bulhorgia Productions. And it is from Brazil. Next I have a movie called Undead. I believe, if I remember correctly, it was by the Spirit Brothers. Put out by Lionsgate Entertainment. Spirit Film. And if I remember correctly, it was actually pretty pretty funny. Next I have Und sie kehrten Nemos wieder. This film is actually subtitled, and this is a Brando Pictures film, and it's a Western. Put out by Umos Productions as well. So I'm interested in checking that out eventually. Next I have Walt Disney's Underdog. This is directed by Frederic Duchow, working with Spyglass Entertainment, and Barbara Birnbaum and Jay Olstein in Underdog. Next I have 12 action-packed films in a pack called Under Fire with Mark Harmon, Casper Van Dien, Stephen Bauer, Dwight Yoakam, and Lee Van Cleef. So first I have Straight Into Darkness. Under Heavy Fire, Special Ops, SEAL Team 4 Journey into Darkness, The Last Rites of Ransom Pride, Casablanca Express, Commandos, Desert Commandos, Saigon Year of the Cat, Turag the Desert Warrior, Cold War Killers, and Time to Die. Here on this Under Fire war film collection. Next I have Steven Seagal in Under Siege 2, Dark Territory. And this was directed by Geoff Murphy, distributed by Warner Brothers Entertainment. Next I have Gene Hackman and Morgan Freeman in a film directed by Stephen Hopkins with Thomas Jane and Monica Bellucci in Under Suspicion. Next I have Under the Rainbow. From West End Productions in 2015. This is a Luke Raymer film. And evidently it has a bonus featurette of Souvenirs of a Hitchhiker on Tuesday Morning. And it's a Behind the Rainbow a making of a documentary on this second disc. But this was number 32 out of 50 of this Luke Raymer film. Next I have Scarlett Johansson in a movie called Under the Skin, directed by Jonathan Glazer. And that's a movie that was making a lot of people Twitter about it. Next, I have Katakoa, the makers of The Ring and Dark Water, invite you to another world, Underworld. And on here are 6 spine-tingling tales of horror: Chainmail, Left Behind the Mountain, Tattoo, Viewfinder's Memory, Guardian Angel, and Mortuary. From Kadokawa Pictures, a Japanese horror anthology called Underworld. And they were all directed by Hiroshi Ikezo, Tatsura Kashihara, Kazuo Koito, Eiji Satoichi, and Hiroki Hirakata, Tadafumi Tomioka. So there we have Underworld. Next I have Underworld: Rise of the Lycans. And this film, it's hard to read. This film was directed by someone else. Patrick somebody or other. Next I have Underworld Awakening with Kate Beckinsale. And again, I can't read the director. Next I have a film by Chris Peckover, and it's called Undocumented. And it's put out by IFC Films, IFC Midnight, and Snoot Entertainment. So there we have Undocumented. I Want You to Go Home. Looks like it has one laurel at least. Next I have Ray Liotta and Linda Fiorentino in Unforgettable. And it's directed by John Dahl. This is a Kino Lorber Blu-ray. Next I have a movie called Unhitched. And this stars Stuart Townsend, Amy Smart, and Seth Green. May the best man win. And the film is directed by Stefan Schwartz. The film it was filmed in 2005 with Sunfire Films, Insider Films, and Hungarian Film Connection with Best Man Film Productions. So I guess this is somewhat Hungarian, I guess. Unhitched. Next I have The Fantastic Adventures of Unico. Directed by Toshio Hirata. And it was an original story by Osamu Tezuka. The screenplay of this was by Masaki Tsuji. And I also have Unico in the Island of Magic. And the animated director of this one is Kazuo Tomizawa. But the screenplay, and it was directed by Morimi Murano. But the story was by Osamu Tezuka. The original story. So it looks like two different directors directed both of these, and I remember both of these when I was a kid. I thought that Unico was very cute, and I guess if I had to say anything about either one of these, I remember In the Island of Magic more than I do the first one here. The Fantastic Adventures of Unico. And next, I have Graydon Clark's Uninvited. This was a Vinegar Syndrome release of this film. And next I have this. I got this a couple of Christmases ago. TCM put out this Universal Cult Horror Collection. And on it, it has House of Horrors, Murders in the Zoo, The Mad Doctor of Market Street, The Mad Ghoul, and The Strange Case of Dr. X, RX. And I know that it was out of print for quite some time. So, next I have the Universal Soldier Collection. To me, this is the Universal Soldier Collection. So, the first film starred Jean-Claude Van Damme and Dolph Lundgren in Universal Soldier. The future has a bad attitude. And the film was directed by Roland Emmerich. The next two films were called Universal Soldier 2 and Universal Soldier 3. And trying to see. Matt Battaglia, Jeff Wincott, Chandra West, and Gary Busey. And Matt Battaglia, Jeff Wincott, Chandra West, and Burt Reynolds. The first batch of actors and actresses were in 2, and the second batch were in Universal Soldiers 3. But Universal Soldiers 2 and 3 were on this double feature set. The next film was called Universal Soldier Day of Reckoning. Actually, that was after this one. So the next one, Van Damme returned in Universal Soldier The Return. And I think he returned in there. I know that was like a big thing at the time. Next we have Andre the Pitbull Arlovsky, Dolph Lundgren, and Jean-Claude Van Damme returning in Universal Soldier Regeneration. And this film was directed by John Hyams. And then finally, if not least, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Scott Adkins, and Dolph Lundgren came back in Universal Soldier Day of the Reckoning. And this was also directed by John Hyams. Next, I have a movie called Unlocked, and it's from the producers of Salt and Red. It's got Naomi Rapace, Orlando Bloom, John Malkovich, and Michael Douglas in the film. And this is directed by Michael Apted. I think that's how you say his name. Next, I have two copies of Unseen Evil, but they're from two different companies. Unseen Evil, and this was directed by Jay Wolfell. And here it is again on the oldies. Alpha Video, Alpha New Cinema, with Tim Thomerson and Richard Hatch. The different ways that you can market a film. If you see it, you're already dead. Richard Hatch of Battlestar Galactica and Tim Thomerson of Trancers were in these two films. Well, in both of because they're the same movie. Next, I have Denzel Washington and Chris Pine in Unstoppable. That's about a rushing train, and it was inspired by true events. Directed by Tony Scott, by the way. Next, I have a film from Germany, from Fun Act Pictures. It's a Martin Erfling film called Untaught, Undead, Unleashed, and as you can see, it's all signed by the filmmaker. It's a 2-disc special uncut edition. It's got Don Magazine, Gory News, and Splatting Image. It stars Sebastian Fiel, Hans Huser, Stefan Uckel, Rainer Dusing, Karsten Zeigelman, Martin Vellenkoop. So, looking forward to checking this film out eventually. Next, I have this Urban Drama Collector set. Urban Drama Collector set that has The River Niger, Blood Tide, Deadly Drifter, and Resting Place. Should be interesting to check that out eventually. And finally, if not least, this was directed by, this is the second feature directed by Jordan Peele, and it's called Us. He was the director of Get Out, and this is the Blu-ray DVD combo of it. It's from Universal and distributed by them. So, in any case, I think that's all I have for this particular video. I appreciate your time spent here on this page. Appreciate your time watching. Hopefully you enjoyed my description of this film, of these films. Thank you for listening ahead of time, and I appreciate all of you who love watching different people's collections, and I hope that my collection can help you find some of the things that you're looking for. For if you don't know that some of these films are on some of these multi-packs or some of these things that are out there, then you know that you can keep an eye out for them, you know? So, in any case, thank you for listening. Like, share, and subscribe, and enjoy. I will definitely have some more cool stuff for you next time around. Thank you so much.
You were good, kid, real good. But as long as I'm around, you'll always be second best, see?